Hey, welcome to Hike Over the Hill. I'm Jedi, as always, coming to you from the thriving metropolis of Rochester, New York. Down here in my basement. It's not so cold today, so I took my hat off. Today I want to talk to you about food rehydration on the trail and getting your food ready for cooking if you're going to cook. Maybe you're not, maybe you're just going to cold soak. We'll talk about that in a minute. So my process and my approach has kind of evolved over the past 3 years since I started backpacking. So I'm going to kind of walk you through how I used to do it and some of the ways I try to improve upon it and how I'm planning to do it for the AT and why, basically. Actually, I'm going to grab one more item over here. We'll talk about this in a moment. But let's start with how I did it in the beginning. So this is a freeze-dried or dehydrated meal of some kind. And as you can see, I've labeled it. It's vacuum packed, vacuum sealed. I shot a whole other video about how I packed meals, how I assembled the ingredients, how I used a spreadsheet, a Google Sheet, to calculate the protein contents, and then how I did the vacuum sealing. So go check those videos out. I'm not going to talk about that here. I just want to show you this is a typical meal. What I'm going to do, and just so you know, I'm not having all my meals sent to me. These are just my dinners. My wife is going to send these to me in my resupply boxes, and this will be my one hot meal of the day that I can look forward to at the end of a hard day of hiking. All of my breakfast, lunches, snacks, trail mix, and everything else I'm eating, other than the one cooked meal at the end of the day, that's all going to be bought on the trail in towns along the way. So it makes my life easier, but I'll also have that one little piece of home to look forward to that I'll give me motivation on the trail. So the idea is I'm going to get these, I'm going to cut them open because this is stiff, it won't fit well in a bear bag or a bear, in my case, an Ursack. I want something I can mold stuff around, something that's a soft bag. So I'm going to transfer it into Ziploc freezer bags. I have two here. These are both quart-sized, believe it or not. These are both the same size, quart-sized freezer bags. This one here is a Glad brand. And by the way, if I mention any brand names, I don't have any affiliations with any companies or products or anything like that. I'm not being sponsored by anyone. In fact, as of right now, there's not even any affiliate links on my YouTube videos. So maybe someday there will be, but right now, no. I'm just out here sharing stuff that I've learned on my own. So as I said, this is the Glad brand. This is our local store brand, just the generic store brand. They're both the same size. They look very different. The Glad bag is much taller, as you can see, because the store brand one is gusseted on the bottom. So that's what gives it. It's going to give it more room to kind of spread out on the bottom. So just as a point of note, I've tried both bags. I prefer this style. I like the gusseted bottom, and I like the slider top. Makes it easier to open and close. This style where you have to, pull it open, and it's got in this case, it's got yellow and blue, which is supposed to turn it, green. You've got to push them together with your finger. There's more room for error there, not getting it quite sealed. And also I find when you open the bag, you got to pull, and you'll sometimes pull hard, and this little edge will get torn right here. Now, if you do it right, you're only going to open this about 3 times, right? You're going to open it the first time to put the food in. You're going to open it the second time on the trail to put the boiling water in, and you're going to open it the third time to eat the food. But again, in my experience, I like the slider top. Use whatever works for you. The idea is that, first of all, you don't have anything to clean up. Once you're done eating, you eat it right out of the bag. You eat your meal, your meal rehydrates in here, and then you just get out your spoon and you just eat your meal. And then when you're done, you seal it back up, and it goes in your trash bag, your little Ziploc bag that you're using for trash on the trail, and you're done. You just got to clean your spoon or your spork. Couple problems with this. First of all, these are not designed to hold boiling water and to be used for rehydration of meals. I did it. Lots of people do it. If you go to their websites, they specifically say it's not designed for that. I think they're trying to probably limit their liability if somebody pours boiling water in it and the bag bursts and splashes them with boiling water. That would not be good, obviously. But since they're not really designed for that, you are running the risk that these are going to burst on you or split a seam, or they're going to have a hole that you didn't notice. And maybe you've got some ramen noodles in there, and one of those noodles poked a tiny little hole in there, and you put the boiling water in, and next thing you know, you got boiling water leaking. You don't notice it, and you got a mess on your hands, and you've lost part of your meal and whatnot. So, use these at your own risk, I'd say. What you do have to do, or what you should probably do, is you want to keep these warm while the food's rehydrating. First of all, just to give it structure, I mean, what are you going to do? You're going to lay a bag full of boiling water and food on the ground to rehydrate, or try to prop it up against something? So there's a couple options there. One thing that we've used is this thing called this little pouch from Packet Gourmet. It's a little foil lined. It looks like a little lunch sack. This weighs less than 2 ounces, 1.5 ounces, I think, or something like that. I should have looked it up, but it's a little overkill. It's got a little handle and everything. It's got Velcro, and But the nice thing is you can fit 2 meals in there, no problem. Okay, so when my wife and I go backpacking, we bring one of these between us, and we just put both our meals in there once we got the water in, and seal it up, and they're in there, and all that heat between the 2 meals is in there, keeping everything nice and warm. You want to go the cheap route, you can do a couple of things. This is a padded bag I got. Something that I ordered online came in this bag. So this is kind of like Reflectix, which I'll talk about in a second. There's a silvery, it's like bubble wrap, but as you can see on the inside, it's not silvery. It's only silvery on the outside. So this isn't true Reflectix, or maybe it's some version of Reflectix that is different than the stuff you would buy at the hardware store. But you could use this, something like this, if you got one in the mail, something you ordered, and you could just put a couple pieces of Velcro up there, and you could Velcro it shut, or you could just tuck the flap in, put your meal, your food in with the boiling water, drop it in there, tuck the flap in, and set it, prop it up against a tree or something to rehydrate and stay warm. Now, you can make these with true Reflectix. And by the way, if you're asking yourself, what's Reflectix? I have a roll of it right here. I bought a roll of Reflectix at the hardware. Holy crap, are you kidding me? Do you know how many of these pouches I can make? If you need some Reflectix, give me a call. I thought that was a good idea to try. So this is Reflectix. It looks like the same thing on the outside, but it's silver all the way through. So I just took a piece of Reflectix and folded part of it over. I taped up the sides with special metallic tape, and I cannot for the life of me find that roll of tape. I don't know what I did with it. I know I didn't use it all up, but it looks like duct tape, but it's thin. It's not thick like duct tape, and it's silver. It's like metallic. It's the stuff I think they tape ducks. I think around the joints of ducks when they're not using actual duct tape. I think it's for insulating, or it's for hot pipes or something. I'm not really sure. But you tape the edges up with that silver metallic tape, whatever it's called. And then I put some Velcro. You can get Velcro with an adhesive back, and so I put 3 pieces on. So you put your meal in there, right? Your little freezer bag meal. Plop that in there. Close that lid. Close that flap like that. The Velcro holds it closed, and then just set that off somewhere to rest it up against a stump or a rock or something. Let your food rehydrate and cook. Keeps it nice and warm. So that's another idea. Now, I'll give you another tip. These bags, okay, think about it. You put food in here and you pour a bunch of boiling water into a bag. You've got basically a hot water balloon with boiling water in it, and it's just like a water balloon. It's just mushy, sloppy, and you don't want, this seal is not going to be watertight, so you don't want it to be laying down on its side. You want it to be upright, because I would not trust these seals to be completely watertight. They may be, but that's a huge risk. So, yes, you can just kind of prop it up against something, or just, in the case of the gusseted one, it will kind of sit on the ground, kind of squat, if you kind of set it down just right. This one will not really sit, not with a lot of finagling, which is why I prefer these types of bags. But, okay, let's say everything's gone well and it's rehydrated and you're ready to eat. Okay, this is awkward to eat out of. I've done it. My wife's done it. I found that sometimes if you cuff the top a little bit, like that, it stays open a little better. You've created like a little bowl for yourself, depending on how much food you have in there. Some of my meals are really big. I don't eat a lot on the trail. I kind of snack on the trail, and then I eat a big meal when I get to camp. So that may or may not work for you. It's very unwieldy though. You're eating perhaps like a soupy meal. You're in the bag, I guess, flopping around. It's very awkward. So here's a tip. This is an origami plate / bowl made by a company called Fossils, and it has these little snaps. And what you do is you snap it together, and you can use it flat as a plate if you have something like that, or you can snap it together, and now I've got a little bowl. So now I've got some structure. When it's time to eat, I can just take my cooked meal, I can set it down in this bowl. I've got some structure now. I can hold the bowl, keeps my hand from holding a hot bag full of boiling water, well, formerly boiling water, and the weight of the food obviously keeps that down in there, and now I can eat, and I got some structure here. The bag's not flopping around on me. So that's a tip from me to you. These things weigh, I want to say, 1.5 ounces, maybe 2 ounces the most. They don't make this particular style anymore. They still make them. Fossils, it's put my glasses on to make sure I read it to you correctly. I don't want to give you the wrong. Fozzils. Fozzils. And they make other flatware. But my wife and I have had these for 3-4 years now. We used to actually eat out of them, but then you got to clean it. And I find what I do on the times we have eaten out of these is once I'm done eating, I've got it in the bowl shape, I flatten it out, and then I just lick it clean. Take it down to a water source away from where anyone's gonna be refilling any water bottles, and then what little is left on there, I'll put it in the water, just kind of rub my fingers on it to clean it off, and that's usually sufficient. Unless you've got a really oily, greasy meal of some kind, that's usually sufficient to clean it off. So if you want to upgrade from these cheap Ziploc freezer bags, another option is to get these. These are actually FDA approved for food. They are food safe. They are boiling water safe. These are they're built not to split. This one's a little bit small. I don't think you could do a real full freezer bag meal in here. You could do probably a good snack. They're gusseted. The bottom there is gusseted, so that will help stand it up when it's full. It might stand up when it's empty. It doesn't want to do it. But when it's full and it's got some weight in there, it'll stand up. This one, it looks pretty big, and it is pretty big, but it's great for a big hearty backpacking meal. Also gusseted, of course, on the bottom, because you don't feel like it's gonna come gushing over the top if you don't have enough room for all the water. So it gives you plenty of room. Only problem with this is it's so tall, it's hard to eat out of. I've done it. I have a long, like a 9-inch, and I don't have it handy. It's somewhere around here. My spoon. I have here it is. My Tokes titanium spoon. It's pretty long, right? But even that is not long enough to get all the way to the bottom of this bag. Okay. You can see it's just about 1 inch shy of the very bottom. So you're kind of sticking your fingers down and you're holding the spoon by the very end, trying to get down there. It's a little awkward. That's where this comes in handy. You can pour your food into the bowl and eat out of the bowl instead. But then again, you've got to clean the bowl now. So yeah, the spoon, goes down in there, and all the way down in there, you can see the spoon is, in the bag. It's a little bit tricky trying to eat out of these bags. But these are from a company called Packet Gourmet, same company that makes this little pouch, Packet Gourmet. I'm not taking this on the AT, by the way. I'm not taking these on the AT either, by the way. I am not taking these on the AT, by the way. I am taking these on the AT, the meals I've already made. So what am I going to do? I'm not going to cold soak. The only time I would consider cold soaking on the AT is if it's really hot out and I just am not in the mood for a hot meal. Then I might just cold soak and just eat it, tepid, or, whatever the ambient temperature is. But most of the time I like a hot meal at the end of the day, even if it's not, piping hot, just something a little bit warm. Just, I don't know, it just feels homey. So what am I going to do? Well, a lot of people use Talenti jars, the Talenti gelato, those 16-ounce jars. I have one of those, or at least I did have one of those. I never used that on a camping trip. I did a dry run with one at home. I didn't think it was big enough volume-wise, really. So I got a couple of these. These are cold soaking jars. I got these from Lightsmith. Yeah, LITESMITH.com. Lightsmith, LITESMITH.com. And I'm not affiliated with them or anyone else, as I said. But this is a 20-ounce jar. This is I believe, a 24-ounce jar. So this is 50% more space than a Talenti jar. This is 25% more space. I got both because I wasn't sure what size I would really want. I do eat a big meal at the end of the day, as I said, and I went to the trouble of putting markings on them. What I did was I put 4 ounces of water in, then I put a little dot with a Sharpie, then another 4 ounces, and put the next dot, so I have every 4 ounce increment. And then I got on my computer and went into Word. There's a little close up. I went into Word and I did these little markings, and then I printed it out, lined it up to see how close I got. Then I would make adjustments. I print it out, line it up, see how close I got. It's not super precise. It's not scientifically accurate, obviously. It just gives me a ballpark idea. Okay, that's about a cup. That's about a cup and a half. Okay. I'm going to start out, my plan is to start out with the big one, just so I have that extra space. I don't feel like, oh boy, it's right up to the rim and I don't have any room to stir it without it sloshing over the side. I am going to put the smaller one, the 20-ounce one, in my bounce box. We'll see how this fares for the first few weeks. If I decide, you know what, I've always got plenty of room at the top, I can make do with the smaller one, the 20-ounce, then I'll swap and I'll send this big one home. But these are meant to be cold soaked. They are safe for boiling water. I checked what it's made of. I believe it's polyethylene. Don't quote me on that. I think that's what it's called. And I actually contacted the guy at Lightsmith, who was very nice, got back to me very quickly and said, yes, it's polyethylene, I think, which is safe for boiling water. So the advantage to this is, number one, I don't have the structural problems like I do with the bags, right? Flopping around and worrying about leaks. This is designed to be a cold soaking jar. And it's got a little bit of a gasket up top. You can't tell. It just looks like white plastic, but it's a little bit of an extra layer in there that gives you a tighter seal. This will seal up good. I can cold soak during the day. I stop for lunch and I say, boy, I'm going to be getting to camp soon. I'm going to start rehydrating my dinner. And that's the other thing. You can partially rehydrate a dinner. So there's 3 approaches. Okay, you can cold soak, put all the amount of water that you would if it was boiling, but just put it in cold and let it soak for at least a couple hours, the whole afternoon if you can. The other thing you can do is you can do a partial cold soak. You can put like just enough water to kind of get the food wet, but not the full amount of water that you're going to need. Let it rehydrate partially, right, to soften it up. Then when you get to camp, take another, the other half of the water, or however much water you need, boil it, dump that in, stir it up good. That'll finish what little rehydration there's left to do, and it'll also give you a hot meal, or at least a hotter meal. It won't be as hot. I did this on the Finger Lakes Trail when I went through Letchworth Park. I tried this approach. I actually tried it with the Vargo bot, the 700 milliliter bot. Okay, I would put my meal in here, and this has a screw top. It can be tricky to get off, which is one of the reasons I'm not planning on bringing this on the AT. You put your food in with some water, you can seal it back up again with a screw top, and then the idea is you can use this just for cold soaking. You can use it for partial cold soaking, where, as I just explained, you put some water in to soften up the food, and then you add some boiling water at the end of the day to heat up the meal, and then eat it that way. Or the other thing you can do is you can cold soak it with pretty much all the water that it calls for, and then when you get to camp, you can add a couple ounces of water and put it on the stove and then stir it and heat it up that way. I did that, and I scorched the crap out of the inside of this. It's clean now. I cleaned it up, but that didn't work as well as I'd hoped. I'll go into a whole other video where I talk about my cookware, but that's one thing you can do to save on, rather than having a cooking pot and a cold soaking jar. This serves double duty, basically. I also thought it was a little bit on the small side. It's 700 mils. This seemed like it, was a little bigger and was going to hold a little bit more food, a little bit more water. I wouldn't have to stress out as much. Oh, the other advantage here to something like these guys with the screw tops is that you can use them for things like making mixes. You can make your granola with milk in there, shake it up and eat your granola out of there. anything, frankly. Or if you're going to make a electrolyte drink, put it in there, shake it up. Or a protein drink, you're going to bring some whey protein powder. This can be your shaker jar, right? Put it in there, shake it up good. You're good to go. So what do you do about this, though, if you want to rehydrate and you want to keep it warm? You want to keep your food warm while it's rehydrating. You don't want your food to cool off. Well, you could bring something like this. What I'm planning to do is just wrap some clothing around it, a shirt, something, just keep it a little bit warm while it's rehydrating. Or I got this little cook pot sack. This is my Toke's 750 milliliter pot. Again, I'll go into cookware later. But I got this little, it comes with a little lid actually too. I got this little insulated bag from a company called Treadlight Gear in the UK. This is made of dynamic composite fabric, and it has an insulating layer. It's kind of soft and fleecy inside, and on the outside, I guess it's heat proof or something. Not fireproof, but heat proof. And then there's like this little disc of Reflectix. So the idea is, you're supposed to like heat up your meal in your pot, which I never do. I never eat out of my pot. I always eat out of a bag or another vessel, a bowl, one of these guys. I just don't want to have a dirty pot. I don't know. I don't want my pot smell like food. So you put it in. You put this on top as like a little lid, and then you would seal it up with a drawstring. And then because it's insulated, it's going to keep everything nice and toasty warm. You can see the little Reflectix lid on there. Keep everything toasty warm while it's rehydrating. Then you just open it up and take it out and eat your meal. Now, I can use this. I'm going to take this at the beginning of the AT. I'll probably swap this out for just a plain Dcf bag. Okay, that's just plain old Dcf. Very lightweight. This weighs, probably 4 times as much as this because it's got the insulation. But the nice thing is, I can also fit this in here. I can't close it. Well, maybe I can close it a little bit, but yeah, I mean, it just barely. I could kind of do a little Reflectix thing. Yeah, I guess I can close it. Not as well as I can the cook pot, but same thing. It's inside there now. That's staying warm. It's rehydrating my meal. The last thing I'll say, just so you know, this was something I didn't think about. When I was on the Finger Lakes Trail and going through Letchworth Park there, I thought, oh, I had the Vargo bot, right, that I showed you, and that'll be killing 2 birds with 1 stone. I can cold soak in it, and then when I get to camp, I'll put a couple ounces of water in so it doesn't scorch on the bottom. Didn't work for me. And then put it on the fire and heat it up. Once I scorched it, I said, okay, that's a bad idea. Maybe I just wasn't careful enough. I don't know. So I went to the hybrid method where I cold soaked part of it, or for part of the time, part of the water. And I thought, when I get to camp, I'll dump the other half of the water in boiling water, heat it up. I'll have a hot meal. I'll use less fuel because I'm heating up less water. It'll be faster because the food's already partially rehydrated, and I'll still have a hot meal. Well, silly me, I didn't think if you take food that's, let's say it's been rehydrating at say 50 degrees because it's 50 degrees outside, and then you pour another cup of boiling water in, well, guess what? Those 2 temperatures are going to meet somewhere in the middle. So you got a 50-degree meal and you throw 212-degree boiling water inside. They're going to meet, somewhere around 130, 140 degrees or something. So you'll have a warm meal, but it won't be a hot meal. It'll be a little bit. It'll feel like if you ever eat soup and then you had to go away for a little bit and you come back, you're like, ooh, I should microwave it for 20 or 30 seconds. It's just a little bit not quite satisfyingly warm. That's what it was like. So anyway, those are the trade-offs I guess you have to make. Oh, the last thing I'll mention is my plan is, like I said, to use the big one and swap to the smaller one if I find that I don't need the extra space. But after I eat, I'm going to take some kind of camp soap, biodegradable camp soap. I'm going to decant some into I've got all these little dropper bottles I've bought also through Lightsmith, different sizes, different styles. I got to figure out which one's going to work best. I'll fill one with soap. I'll label it so I know it's soap, and I'll put like 2 or 3 drops in here. Put a few ounces of water, seal it up, shake it up real good, kind of wash it out, so to speak. Go out in the woods, dig a little hole far away from water sources and so on, as you should, and dump it out, put a little bit more water in to rinse it out real good, dump it, and then maybe a second rinse just to make sure there's no soapy residue in there. And just if it gets greasy on the inside. And last thing that it just reminded me, after I'm done eating my meal out of one of these jars, what my plan is to always carry some tortilla bread or pita bread, like some kind of flat bread, and then I'll take a piece, 2-3 pieces of that bread, and I'll wipe out, use it like a little sponge, wipe out the jar, and eat the bread. Okay, just like you're sopping up tomato sauce with some Italian bread when you're having spaghetti. Do that to kind of get as much out of there as I can, so as little food remnants as possible. And then use the soap because if there's oil or if I had a cheesy dish of some kind, that'll break down the oils in there. So anyway, that's kind of my approach for the Appalachian Trail. Is I'm gonna cold soak when the weather's amenable to that. Otherwise, I'll just cook in here with boiling water and eat right out of there, and then give it a little rinse at the end of the day with a little camp suds and dump it far away from water sources. So I hope you enjoy. I hope you learned a few things, or I gave you some ideas, or maybe think that's a stupid way to do it. But whatever the case, thanks for watching, and I will see you on the next video. So for now, I'm going to sign off. So thanks again. See you soon. Bye.